Thank you for taking time to view this short presentation on ECCMA. Like most companies, you're probably researching how you can use your master data to either reduce cost or increase revenue. Both are possible. I'll try to illustrate how you can achieve this quickly and efficiently and how ECCMA can help. My goal is to persuade you to become a member of ECCMA so that you can benefit from our experience and our tools, and also invite you to participate in building the future of the association. It's always better to start with a success story. We have many, but this is a good example of what you can expect. This company joined ECCMA and requested a scoping study to determine the value of their master data and how it could be improved. The potential return on investment looked very promising, so we recommended a pilot project using the EMDV, or the ECCMA Master Data Validator, followed by a staged deployment. Now, that's exactly what they did. This is an ongoing project which is currently being rolled out to more locations across facilities worldwide. Basically, over 400 requisitioners around the world are using the EMDV application to improve search on SAP and PeopleSoft and to bring data together. We're now adding functionality to the EMDV to help identify slow-moving and dead stock to enable managers to decide if they should reduce stock and reorder quantities or consider stock relocation across different facilities, and ultimately, of course, offer surplus stock for sale. This is a very successful company focused on investing time and resources where it really counts. The initial review of master data has resulted in a new division that uses high-quality master data to reduce cost and risk while improving operational efficiency, a real and ongoing success story. So this is something you could do just as well as they have. So a little bit of history on ECCMA. ECCMA was formed in 1999 and has been focused on improving the identification, descriptions, and classifications of things since, as I said, 1999. We've actually invested over 800,000 hours, which is a lot over those years, in actually figuring out the best way and the most effective way to create descriptions and improve identification. Now, when we first started out, the term master data did not even exist, but that's simply a historic note. Now you'll find master data everywhere. We actually started with material master, but we quickly realized that the same process we were using for describing materials worked for services too, and now we use the same process to describe individuals and companies as well as laws and regulations. Now, on a practical side, you'll probably have been aware of some of the work that we've done. Probably the most common one that most companies have actually seen or used is the UNSPSC. It's an international commodity classification. We actually developed the UNSPSC for purchasing card companies, Amex, Visa, and MasterCard. And the plan was to get merchants to add UNSPSC to line item detail on invoices so that the card companies could provide better analysis to their customers. Now, why do they need that? Well, if you use a purchasing card at a hotel or restaurant, it's pretty obvious what you are buying. But if you're buying things from Staples, it's not obvious that you actually buy, a computer, a cell phone, what else did you buy? And accountants were getting a little bit nervous when they start seeing description of everything come in as Staples as office supplies. Well, office supplies are a very big category, covers everything. UNSPSC worked very well, but as more and more suppliers added it to invoices and catalogs, we started to see problems. The first thing that we saw is that buyers were starting to distrust the classifications that were being put on invoices by their suppliers. And we soon realized that it wasn't the classification that we needed, we simply needed a better description. And who best to provide that than the supplier themselves? As it turned out, there was a military system that had been developed for describing products in the 1950s, just after the Second World War. And it had been very successfully applied to 36 million items used across the whole range of military products. They don't just buy weaponry, they buy, shoes and boots and things that you buy as well. as well as bearings and bushings and all the fun stuff for MRO. Now, the system was a NATO codification system, and we worked with them to take the codification system that they developed and turn it into an international standard. And that became ISO 22745. So the standards are used for the exchange of master data. In fact, it is a cataloging standard. Now, following quickly after that, we developed ISO 8000 as international standard for quality data and quality information. And the reason ISO 8000 came into being is that the military wanted to make that a requirement on all their procurement. And today, if you receive a contract from a military organization, they're going to ask that you comply with ISO 8000 and provide them with quality data. The process that we developed with them was first called cataloging at source. It's a new master data validation process that lowers the cost of quality master data. And that was really their goal. When we first started the process with NATO and the members of NATO, cataloging would cost upwards of $50 an item, and now we're talking closer to $5. So that's been a great success. Well, today, ECCMA manages an open technical dictionary that's used for describing goods and services. This is the core, the heart and soul of what we do, and it's a dictionary that we've built over the years by bringing together dictionaries from other sources. So all the NATO dictionaries are included, but also dictionaries from ISO, IEC, and many other standards organizations. We also manage a catalog of templates. These are cataloging templates that you're going to use, but like cut and paste. Rather than invent your own, you use one of ECCMA's templates, and it tells you for this class of material, these are the properties, the attributes that you probably should be looking at collecting. And then we went a little bit further, and we actually have a shared vendor master, Igor, and a shared material master, the ETSR. And these are shared amongst our members. It basically, if one of our members verifies and validates a vendor or verifies and validates a material, it's made available to our other members. As we can see, shared services actually works within a company, but also works across companies. So nothing contained in our master data is sensitive. There's no pricing in those systems. It's basically, this is a identification of a vendor. It's an address of a vendor, and this is a description of a material. So the real question you have to answer, of course, is where is the money in quality master data? Why would you spend your time and your effort and your company's money in improving the quality of master data if you cannot justify the value you're going to get from it? Well, there's three really easy ones you can look at. We call them low-hanging fruit. First, on the sell side, reliable trend analysis is based on data. You need to be able to cross-sell based on what customers are currently buying. And of course, you need to be able to identify the customer. And it's very common when we look at customer masters that there's, duplication in the customers. They had slightly different names, slightly different addresses, or actually mistakes in the vendor master or in the customer master. And part of their job is to make sure you get rid of those mistakes. So sell side is very important. Cross-selling is based on data. Being able to repeat sell to your customers is based on data. Having good quality data helps that process. Of course, when people are looking at this, and the reason you're probably looking at this is, I'm trying to lower the cost of purchasing. Well, it's not just lowering the cost. You also have to look at the speed at which purchasing occurs. There's a lot of labor-intensive processes in purchasing, but if you can make that smoother and more effective, that speeds up the whole process, and there's a lot of money in reducing that time cycle. What we've been finding across most of our member companies is inaccurate vendor identification, or even worse, poor material descriptions, counts for about 25% increase in indirect procurement costs. 25%. That's a huge number. And it's something you can recapture very, very quickly by improving the quality of your master data. And of course, one of the other downsides of poor quality master data, you get unreliable spend analysis. So whatever the efforts you're putting into budgetary control and cost management inside your company, if the actual data that you're getting is not reliable, you're undermining the whole process. Lower inventory costs. Of course, if you can reliably identify slow-moving and dead stock, you can reduce stock. And that's typically done by reducing reorder quantities, by redistributing the material internally, or by, safely, we call it safely disposal of surplus materials. Yes, you are selling it, but you want to make sure it's not a critical material. The fact that it hasn't moved for 10 years doesn't mean it's surplus to your requirements. So there are methods, but it all starts with really having a good understanding of the material itself. Well, now becomes the big question. Should you be an ECCMA member? Well, if you're trying to improve the value of your master data, then you definitely should consider becoming a member of ECCMA. One, we can help you maximize the value at the lowest cost and as quickly as possible. We do that through a series of scoping studies. We do that by looking at your master data, but also trying to guide you in really what you can do quickly and what basically gives you an advantage so you can demonstrate tangible results. And of course, as a member of ECCMA, you have access to our shared master data, as well as a number of our training tools, and that's going to help you lower the costs. And again, you're not in this work alone. You can benefit by the work that's being done by other members of ECCMA, and that's going to help you lower the cost. Now, if you're a provider of an application or service used for master data management, data cleansing, or cataloging, then you should also consider becoming a member of ECCMA. Well, why? Well, for the same reason, pretty much. Access to shared resources is going to lower the costs for your customers, and they're going to like that, of course. But also, membership in ECCMA indicates that you are committed to standards for master data quality and that you are a provider of quality master data solutions. So it's always good to be seen by your customers as a leader in the field, and that's helped a number of companies. We work with a large number of application service providers, and again, these are areas they can work together on, yet they compete very effectively in the field. How much does membership cost? Well, we have ranges, of course. Depends on how much of our resources you're going to use, and also what commitment you need from us to support you. Associate member is redesigned for individuals who want to become certified as ISO 8000 Master Data Quality Managers. So there's a lot of training involved. There's online training courses, and there's a regular series of courses that we provide to our associate members. Full members is really the core of our membership. These are companies that pay $5,000 per year. It sounds pretty high, but what you're getting in return is a pretty high level of support to help you really achieve quality master data very quickly. We start by mapping your corporate dictionary to the OpenTable dictionary so you can benefit by work done by others. We then provide the templates you're going to need to create quality data. And then, of course, we provide you with links of how to access our shared vendor master and our shared material master. And we also have another process which is available to our full members, which is our data validation process. If you have a material that you're trying to identify and you know where you're buying it from, but it's not in our current library of specifications, if you send it to us, we will actually contact the supplier or the manufacturer and ask them to provide us with a specification in standard format. Sometimes if you go direct, you get as quick a result as we do, but sometimes we're asking on behalf of a number of our members, and that actually makes the validation process more effective. Charter member, we do not have many charter members. We typically have one or two a year, and they have special projects which they want us to execute for them, such as building new templates or providing a new service that's useful to them or to their customers. They can request a special project. They could integrate the dictionary and our master data repositories directly into their products. So we have some companies that are essentially reselling ECCMA services to their customers, and that's absolutely fine with us. And finally, we have a new process now of ISO 8000 prefix registrar. Bit like DNS, you need to be a registrar if you're going to be marketing prefixes, and I'll be talking a little bit about that later on. And that's really why you have to be a charter member. Well, beyond our basic membership, we have a series of tools and services which members can use. They have fees attached to them because not all members need them, and they're designed for a very specific purpose. The first one is a scoping study, and you provide us with a confidentiality agreement that we sign, and then you provide us with your existing vendor, your existing material master, as well as 3 years of purchase order transactions. We put that into our analysis process. It takes us about 4 weeks to analyze your data. And what you get back is quite a detailed report, which identifies where you should put your efforts into cleaning up your material master, what is the best method to do that, and also gives you some guidelines of what you should expect if you outsource this to a third party. And typically, when companies have been using us to do scoping studies before going out to contract for a data cleansing project, the prices have been cut by about 70%. Yes, that's a real number, that a cost of a data cleansing project after you've done a scoping study will be about 30% of what you would have paid if you did not have a scoping study. It makes sense. The person quoting for your work, if they don't really know what you've got as far as your data, haven't done the analysis, then basically they're going to put a bigger margin in there because they really don't know what they're facing, and it's going to cost you a lot more. Some companies offer to do a scoping study for you, but in that case you tend to get bound into their services, and you really want to have a scoping study done before you go out to the market to get people to quote on your work. Well, one of the major tools we developed is the ECCMA Master Data Validator, the EMDV. This came out of our membership getting a little bit frustrated, actually not a little bit, very frustrated with the cost of data cleansing tools and sometimes, in many cases, the poor performance. So we started by designing a very simple cataloging tool that used the ECCMA templates, and then we realized it wasn't so much about the cataloging issue. Most of this data already existed inside our members' systems. So what the MDV does, first and foremost, has a very, very powerful Google-like search engine that's able to search through your existing material master, but also your existing purchase orders. And then if you don't have the material, nobody's bought the material before, then yes, it's going to give you a template to help you define it, the basic cataloging of that item. It's really designed for requisitioners. This is where the whole process starts. If you can get the requisitioners finding existing materials, they don't request a new material be created. Right? If they give you more data, then the cataloger, the material master, the material data manager can actually look more carefully and see if they can find it as well. The whole process works a lot better. The MDV is a licensed application. It can start from $500 a month for a small company with limited master data, and goes up to an enterprise version, which is the one it's being used by the company I gave them the case study. They actually have it in, I believe, 5 countries. It's a multilingual version, and it's on a dedicated server for their company. It's also tied into their different applications as well. ECCMA training. Of course, our job is not to do things for you. Our job is to help you acquire the knowledge and expertise to do this yourself. We really believe very strongly that master data is a core asset of any company. So the company needs to understand how this master data needs to be taken care of, needs to understand how to manage it. Yes, you can call in people to help. You can outsource certain tasks, but this is core to your business. So you need to understand how to manage this data. So we provide training on data governance. We provide training for requisitioners. How do they search? How to use these tools to search? What questions to ask? How do they create new material requests? We also train of course, catalog managers, procurement services. So it depends on what they're actually doing. We tailor our training to what they're actually trying to do. Our training is not theoretical, it's totally practical, and we either do it on site or online, but we're always looking to make sure it fits into the normal working day and that it helps them very quickly and get their work done quicker than it would do before. So that's our training. Now we also have a group of consultants. We currently have, I believe, 17 consultants that work with us as required, and they're deployed across the world. We have a number working in the Middle East as well as in South America. And basically these consultants are there to assist our member companies in overcoming a challenge or an issue which is looking to be short-lived. Sometimes you just need something to get you started. They combine some training as well, but typically they will go in to a company and design a project, and these projects can be, a few months, or in the case of a big project we're dealing with in Saudi Arabia, I think we're into year 4 of that project. Of course, that project, we're actually designing a new system and implementing a new system for the government. So as you can imagine, it takes a little bit more time and a bit of a challenge. In fact, the project in Saudi Arabia is going to affect everybody because all products going into Saudi Arabia are going to require to be described using the international standards for descriptions. Okay. So ECCMA is a good idea. Your master data, you want to clean that up, that's fine. But now what we're looking at is ISO 8000. Well, why do I care? Why do I really care about ISO 8000? I can have quality data, but it doesn't need to be ISO 8000 quality data. Well, the answer is yes, it does. The main thing about ISO 8000 is it's your guarantee that your data is portable. Now, if you haven't really thought about that, anytime you use a software application and that software application stores data, it's going to store data on your computer, on your server. It's going to store it somewhere, but it's going to store it in a format that that software understands. And then if you want to move it to another software application, it may not be as easy as you think. Now, remember what I said, master data is the core of your business, so it makes sense that you want to protect that asset. So ISO 8000 is international standard that turns your master data into an asset, something that stays with your company, that you actually own, that's under your control, and that you can use with multiple software applications. It also means this data can be retained over a long period of times. It's not going to start disappearing. And if a software vendor disappears on you or no longer provides you service, you can still take your data and easily port it into another application. If your data is not ISO 8000 quality, then your data is actually at risk. Worst case scenario, unfortunately it's more common than people realize, is that the data that you think is yours is not yours. It actually belongs to the software provider and it's bound into that software application. And no, they cannot or will not let you export the data to another application. So you have to end up with a program called an ETL, extract, transform, load. It's an expensive exercise and it's actually unreliable. So the best thing to do is right up front, make sure your data is ISO 8000 compliant. Another standard you're going to hear about is ISO 22745. This is the standard for cataloging, and it tends to go hand in hand with ISO 8000. And ISO 22745 is the standard for formatting data. So if you want to exchange data, if you want to ask a manufacturer or a supplier to give you a specification in a format that you can read, what you're asking for is 22745. It's a bit like, it's an XML, so it's a bit like a PDF, except a PDF is something that you can read, doesn't mean your computer can read it very well. A 22745 XML basically means a computer can extract data automatically from that. And one example is your spreadsheet software. If you're using Excel or any other spreadsheet software, it can read a 22745 XML file. And when it reads it, it puts your columns and rows correctly. Everything, fits into that spreadsheet very well. And if you're trying to automate creation of short names for your ERP system, or purchase order descriptions, or automate classifications, you need to make sure your computer can read this data. And that's the purpose of ISO 22745. Of course, everything that's created using the format of ISO 22745 is by definition ISO 8000 compliant. Okay, so there we go. Quick summary, quick review, and I hope you decide that you should join ECCMA. If you click on that link, you'll go to our web page, and of course Daniela is here to help you answer any questions you may have about membership. So I hope I get to see you as a member of ECCMA and we get to work together. Thank you very much for listening to this short presentation.